Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Davos, high up in Graubünden, the canton in which Davos is located. I'm David Goldstrom, and alongside me, former British racing international Posey Musgrave on a beautiful day here, Posey.
Absolutely, looking forward to getting our first race in the Alps underway for this season.
Indeed, it's a little deceptive, isn't it? Because you just look at that picture and you can see plenty of white snow, but if you look a little wider, you'll see very little snow, which is really surprising for Davos at this time of year and at this altitude.
Indeed, Davos does tend to be one of the more sort of stable snow options. It's been pretty consistent, but has been tricky in the last couple of years. But yeah, as you say, at the altitude, high up in the Alps, you would hope to have some good snow by this time of year.
Well, the race is some minutes away. We'll be back for that after this. Welcome back to Davos, and here an idea of just what the racers face in this morning's 15-kilometer freestyle skate.
Okay, Sarina, home course race this weekend. We haven't seen you on World Cup yet, and we know you're a very strong skier in the longer distances. Is the Davos World Cup an exciting point on your calendar?
Yeah, of course, because it's where I live. It's where I train many hours a year, and then to race here is of course special, and it's at least a 15K, so that's better for me than a sprint, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
So we you'll be warmed up after 10K, and we expect really fast into 15K?
Oh, well, that's what I hope for. I'm not so sure about my shape, but I'll try my very best.
And since you live here and you get to do interval training and the hard stuff, you must know mentally where it's important for you to push on this course, because it's not many big steep hills, but there's a long work areas.
Yeah, that's true. That's the kind of special thing about the Davos course, but it normally fits me well. And yeah, I hope for good skis and a good crowd, and the weather is perfect. So it's just to go out and push hard.
Well, we wish you all the best, and welcome back to World Cup.
Thank you.
A gorgeous day in Davos, and Posey, this is the journey that the women all face this morning.
Indeed, Davos is, as Sarina was just saying there, it is one of the more deceptive courses on the World Cup, I think. Quite a gradual uphill there, no sort of huge climbs like we saw last week in Lillehammer, but very steadily uphill. You've really got to work this down as well. You can't afford to just let up and rest on it, because you're going to lose way too much time if you do that. So quite tricky, I think.
Well, this is the start list, some 60 athletes from 18 nations, although we can tell you that neither Rosie Brennan of the United States or Nicole Fessel of Germany will be starting in today's race. And another important absentee is Marit Bjørgen. After her exertions in Lillehammer, felt a bit tired, decided that it was time to take a rest and prepare for next weekend's competitions in La Clusaz, which you'll be able to see on Eurosport as well. There you can see Heidi Weng with the yellow bib as the World Cup leader. And it's very interesting, Posey, the top 15 able to choose their positions, and then you see Jess Diggins down at 60 to go last of all.
She has indeed. She's obviously decided that getting those splits is going to be really useful. And I think when you get into these longer time trials, it is just fantastic to know that, because if you can see someone's just 2 seconds in front of you, you can find those seconds, whereas you're going earlier on, you've got a little bit less information to play with. So I think she's been quite smart out there today to take that last position.
Yeah, she, of course, winner of that 5-kilometer race with beautiful skis and very effective on the downhills in Lillehammer. So we'll be looking for her to do what no other American woman has done, which is to win a race of 15 kilometers in distance. She came pretty close in the 10-kilometer World Championship final in Falun a couple of years ago to the absent Teresa Johaug. And it's interesting when you consider that, in fact, this race has been run 3 times, but it's only Norwegians who've won it. Johaug last year, now under a cloud with her suspension. And then, of course, Marit Bjørgen in the 2011 and 2013.
Indeed, the Norwegians are just like the rest of the World Cup circuit. They've just been dominant on this race. Such strong skiers and so consistent. It's hard to knock them off the top of the podium. Anyone else has got to be on the top of their game to really compete for that top spot. So we're just seeing the forerunners go around the course there now, so you can see the conditions there. They've done a really good job, the organisers, I think, putting together quite a good course with a good depth of snow, considering how little natural snow there's been this year.
Yeah, in fact, the actual bed of the snow comes from last year's snowfall. After the season was over, they covered it with chippings and then got rid of the chippings in October to allow some training, and then they've sort of redressed it. And the biggest job they've had in terms of artificial snow was actually making the stadium complex. So the transponders being fixed on here, so at least we can find out or keep track of where anybody is at any one time.
Can indeed. It's going to be interesting to see the splits today, just talking about that course profile, seeing who works those uphills really well and who manages to make up a little bit of time on the downhill. So we'll be keeping a close eye on those and seeing how people are doing as they go around.
Yes, we've got last year's stats as a bit of a guide. Obviously from year to year conditions change, but at the moment everything points to it being a stable race in terms of conditions, and that's why, as you pointed out, it's tactically astute to go late in the draw. And I guess what Jess Diggins must have done is sat down with her coaches, looked at the weather forecast and decided that's the place to be. So away we go with the longest individual race of this early season so far. The women's 15-kilometre skate, 3 loops of 5 kilometres. Posey Musgrave, former British international, alongside myself, David Goldstrom. A lovely day in Posey's favourite ski resort. Emma Vicken on track, Sweden.
So we've got Daria Bisi coming up here, starting second. Interestingly, the Canadians, they would have taken a few more of their girls away this year. I think they've got 3 or 4 starting today, just trying to really focus on bringing up that women's side and developing them after they've been quite quiet for a few years since the retirement of their big names a couple of years back.
I think that's right. I mean, new generation, and it can take between 5 to 8 years to bring around. If your junior squad hasn't been developing at the same time as your big stars have been racing, like Sarah Rana, who would be one of those, then you're almost starting again.
Absolutely, and I think it takes a couple of years just to feel comfortable on the World Cup and racing at this level and seeing what the courses are like in Europe and just the different atmosphere of racing against all the top skiers in the world. So you do really need to do that for a few years and get the experience potentially before you're going to be actually competing for your top 10s or your top 20s.
Well, there's no lack of experience when it comes to Aina Kaiser Saarinen. I mean, she is at 37 a really experienced racer. Bronze medal back in the Vancouver Olympics, over 30 kilometres in classic style. I would say that potentially classic was more her forte than freestyle skating. Great to see her here. And of course the other thing is that the Finns actually have started with a real zest, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely flying, the Finnish women at the beginning of this year. I guess just, they've got their home world championships this year coming up in Lahti. I think they're really focusing on performing well that year, and it's great to see actually as a team that they perform so well. They're always there or thereabouts, but I think they've just got a few more women coming through and being quite consistent at that top level.
So this course, perhaps we'd just repeat our view on the course, or indeed your view on this course, because you've actually skied it many a time. But just pause there, because about to start is Katarina Smutna, 33 years of age and very much a top runner in the Visma Classic series of long-distance Loppet races, which has now become very professional. She races for a team called Team Santander, and if you look at the rankings over the past 24 years, she's right at the top. The recent ranking sees Britta Norgren from Sweden just ahead of her, and it'll be interesting to see because she's certainly got the endurance.
She does indeed. There's a couple of women out here who sort of focus on those long distance, so they've obviously targeted this as a World Cup race that they can have a good crossover into. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how they shape up against the the women that are regularly competing on the World Cup. But I think Smutner's got quite good experience. She has been a World Cup racer in the past as well, so I think that can stand her in good stead, and it'll be interesting to see how she gets on today.
Olga Zareva of Russia. Well, I guess every Russian athlete is under some sort of a cloud at this time after the publication of yesterday's McLaren report, because it's right across 30 sports, so it's not by any means just cross-country skiing, but it paints an awful picture, and it just wonders, it makes you wonder sometimes, you know, what you're actually looking at, what's happening in front of you.
Yeah, it is sad, but you do have to question it, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely right. Sad is the right adjective to apply to it, I think, at the moment. So the course here, they come out of the stadium, they're climbing, but as you said a little earlier, the climbs are different. The course is very different to the toughness of Lillehammer.
Yeah, I think when you go somewhere like Lillehammer or Ruka, we've already been so far this year, you have some really steep, really, really tough climbs. Davos has got a few sort of spurts in it that are much steeper, but in general it's quite long and gradual, but you're going consistently up for about the first half of this course. So you've got 2.5k where you don't have much flat or downhill at all. It's really quite steadily up. So very, very different. You have to learn to sort of manage your strength and control that quite well so that you don't burn out too quickly. And as I say, you can't get to the top and think that you can just have a rest. You've got to keep working as you go in that downhill, because again, the downhills are also not that steep. They've got some flat sections, quite gradual downhills. If you don't work through that, you can lose a huge amount of time. And we've seen races here won and lost on those downhills before. So you absolutely can't relax once you get to the top of the course.
So, of course, ski preparation, important, should be relatively straightforward, with the air temperature at minus 1.5, the snow temperature minus 3.5. But Jess Diggins, when she won the 5-kilometer race in Lillehammer, as she said, I had dynamite skis, which really supported her work on the downhills.
Yeah, you know, you just can't overemphasize the importance of having good skis to win a race here. You can be on your best form, but if your skis aren't up to standard, you're not going to compete to the top level, sadly. I don't think it does help when it's a bit more stable conditions like this. It's a bit more of a level playing field for the teams with slightly smaller teams of wax technicians and service staff helping them on. But so hopefully that'll make a difference. But yeah, I think a good pair of skis is going to be key.
Let's talk a little bit about altitude, because that's another big factor here. The town of Davos is at 1,560 meters. We go a little bit higher here. Most of the racers will have come straight on from Lillehammer here to acclimatise. But as you see Irma Viken on this climb up to the first time check at 2.2 kilometres, you can't rush this when you first arrive here, can you?
No, absolutely not. As you say, we go from Lillehammer, which is pretty much at sea level, not much further above, to 1,400 metres. That's a very big change. The first few days skiing at altitude can feel like an awful lot of hard work. You know, you're feeling slow, you're not feeling very snappy. You have to really ease yourself in quite gently. So most of the athletes, when they arrive here, will take a couple of days fairly easy. They'll be maybe doing some longer skis, but quite slow speed, not pushing the pace at all.
Masahiko Ishida. Now, I always recognise Masahiko as being a really good classic skier. Masako Ishida, I should say. But actually has started this season with a bit of form.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you, David. I think she is stronger in classic technique, but she's another skier that's been moving on to the long-distance races, so that could stand her in good stead here as well.
But had already a bit of success in Sweden?
Yeah, early season races saw her win the classic and come top 10, I think, in the skate.
Well, this is great to see Aina Kaiser-Saarinen here, and of course she's got all the disadvantages because she's going so early, so however well she does, everybody can feed off her progress, and you can see 13 seconds, a big bite into Emma Viken's time. It's too early to say whether she's gone out too sharply or not. And Sarina Bonner now from Davos, 34 years of age, very much an enthusiast for her new long distance team, the Gel Interim Rossignol team, which is one of the Visma Classic teams, like Smutner's in the Team of Santander. It's very professional the way that they've actually approached this long distance tour, and her partner Tony Liver's also in that team. So she's underway, and now the older of the Slynn sisters, this is Celia, her younger sister Astrid, 3 years her junior.
Yeah, so there's actually 3 Slyns. We've got Carrie, Astrid, and
that's
Celia,
right,
so it's hard to keep track of them sometimes. I don't think Astrid's here today. I think it's Carrie, but all 3 of them have competed at that top. All 3 of them have competed at that top level, so they're all pretty good skiers in their own right.
Well, if experience now at the moment, at this very early moment, counting here with Aino Kaiser Saarinen well to the fore, and Šebašek representing Slovenia. They don't have too many headline skiers, mostly in the sprints more than in the distance races. And they don't have at this moment really a Petra Madic, who used to be their sort of team captain, spiritual captain, driving force.
No, and Šebašek as well, I think, tends to do quite well in the sprint, so it's interesting to see her compete today. They do have quite a good women's team, but as you say, no one sort of shining star. They've got Katja Visnauer and Vesta Fabian again in the sprint, who've done well in recent years, but maybe not one quite as dominant as Madic was sort of 5-10 years ago.
And now America's Elizabeth Stevens. This, excuse me, this distance should suit Liz Stevens absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, she loves skate. She loves the long distance races. Quite likes this sort of course. Lots of, as I say, not steep, but lots of long, steady climbing. She's really good at just sort of pushing the pace quite consistently over time. It would be great to see her do well here today, but she hasn't been quite on top form the last couple of seasons, I don't think.
Yeah, she's quite wiry, hails from Vermont, and I guess the American team will be quite interested to see how she progresses in the sense of, how Jess Diggins might go right at the end of the race.
Yeah, of course. I think they'll obviously be looking at things as well, like, how are her skis running. She can give feedback for things like that as well, so they can also use her results and how she's doing to sort of work for the rest of the team if they need to make any last-minute adjustments to that. But I'm sure they're hoping she's going to be doing well as well. And, it could be a good day for her. She just needs to up the pace a bit over the last few weeks, because she's got off to a bit of a slow start this season.
Evelina Settlin for Sweden, 24 years of age, from Sollefteå, and a racer who was just top 50 last year in the cross-country world rankings, but the new talent for the Swedish elite team. And she raced here last year in the race won by Teresa Johaug. She was a respectable 26 given her experience. Now on the other side of the table, here you have Maria Rydqvist, who's 33 years of age, has been around the World Cup for a decent period of time, has competed in the World Championships. In fact, she was just behind Caitlin Gregg in Falun in the World Championships over 10 kilometers, finishing in 4th place. Caitlin Gregg got the bronze medal for America on that particular occasion. So interesting to see how Maria does today. 25 start intervals are 30 seconds, and this is Caitlin Patterson, pretty useful under 23 racer for the Americans.
Yeah, had a great first race of the season as well, getting in the top 30 in Ruka, so good start for her.
Interesting, Saarinen at 2.2 kilometers, 6:21.4, and that is a full 20 seconds ahead of Katarina Smutner. So you can see that Saarinen, very positive start.
Yeah, and you'd think she has the experience as well with all these years of skiing. You don't expect her to be one of these people that's going to go off too fast. She knows how to pace a race well, but we'll see how that stacks up when we get some of the later starters coming through.
Well, just for the moment, Aino-Kaisa Saarinen of Finland is our early pathfinder, who will come up to challenge her. Well, surely her own teammate, Krista Palmakoski, sooner rather than later. Natalie von Siebenthal for Switzerland. Terrific talent, which she showed to great purpose a couple of years ago, winning the under-23 World Championship of Skiathlon, and a bronze medal at under-23 level over 10 kilometers freestyle skate, which is the discipline of today. So still Saarinen at 2.2 kilometers and 3.2 kilometers in the lead, and she also leads at 5 kilometers, although Emma Vicken, who was some 14 seconds down, has cut that back to just under 12.
The other thing we'll need to take account into here as well, David, is the fact that they're doing 3 laps. So as Saarinen goes on to her second lap, she'll have potentially the advantage of catching a ride with people on their earlier laps. So that can be another thing to think of in terms of tactics, that you might not have the benefit of splits, but you can get a ride on with someone that's a little bit fresher than you going through your second and third lap.
Well, Tikhonova there, just 3 seconds behind the Belarusian, and Kalsina at the moment early on. And on her way, Krista Parmakoski for Finland. And Parmakoski, who was very unlucky last weekend to have a fall when she was heading for second place behind Jess Diggins, but has started the season very positively. Overall, she lies third in the World Cup rankings, second in the distance rankings so far, and I think that she could be very much the pathfinder sooner rather than later, and it'll be the likes of Heidi Weng and Ingvild Flugstad-Ørsberg who'll be trying to follow her time splits.
Yeah, as you say, she's had an absolutely fantastic start to the season. She's always been close, you know, she's been fourth in a lot of races before, but she hasn't been on the podium that many times, so I'm really pleased to see her just making that little jump and finally getting there consistently.
I think that's okay for Liz Stevens. Not so far off there, just about 7 seconds off at this particular moment. And now Laura Mononen, another of the Finns, also top 10 in the overall rankings at the moment, 5th in the distance disciplines.
Yeah, also had a pretty good start to the season. As we said earlier, the Finns have been doing really well this year, so she could do well. As a team, I think they are a little bit stronger in classic than skate, but I don't think there's any reason that they can't do well here today as well.
And at the moment, through 2.2 kilometers, it's Polina Kalsina of Russia who is actually leading at that particular point. These are quite early days at the moment. And that's 2.2 kilometers. New leader there, Evelina Setlin, ahead of Kaisa Saarinen and ahead of Kalsina as the World Cup leader gets off on her run. Heidi Weng in high spirits. The successes in Lillehammer rewarding her with a first ever World Cup Tour success over the 3 days.
Yeah, with someone like Heidi Weng, you're used to seeing her on the podium, so it's actually, you almost forget that she hasn't won a mini tour before because you see her there all the time, but she's always been second and third. Great to see her on the top spot finally, and again, I think she's going to have a good day today.
Yes, and also she'll have happy memories because last year when Therese Johaug won this race, it was a Norwegian clean sweep with Johaug ahead of Ørsberg and Weng in third place, but clearly Weng continues to move forward. And now Ingvild Flugstad-Ørsberg, and she's a danger today. She could possibly be a winner here, and you could see some of her accomplishments there. Olympic champion in the team sprint, but she can do the distances as well.
She really can. She's improved her distance skiing massively in the last few years. You know, when she got her way onto the Norwegian team through her sprinting, but she always said she wanted to be an all-round skier, and I think she's proved in the last few years she could do that. You know, she got given a few distance starts and really made the most of them and proved that she was worth that spot on the team, and I think she's just been such a great all-round skier in the last few years.
Yeah, she's from Gjøvik, more about her, and now someone else who would relish this sort of test because she is absolutely a freestyle specialist. Rita Ropponen, I should say. Again, very experienced and a bronze medalist on occasion with the Finnish team. I think the one that sticks in the memory is in Vancouver, where the Finns got the bronze medal. And now Anne Kilonen. You can see that there is the real makings of a strong Finnish team for the upcoming Nordic Ski World Championships in February.
Yeah, and they've got a really nice mix of, they've got some very experienced skiers like Ropanen and Saarinen, some slightly younger ones. You know, Palmer Cosby has been around for a while, but she's that much younger, so just a really good mix there on the team, I think.
Ropanen, the fastest up the first section of the climb, now almost 2 seconds ahead of Evelina Setlin, and Saarinen 3 seconds back, Polsina 6.2 seconds back. Polsina, though, still the leader or the fastest through the first 3 kilometers. She was a racer here, Polsina, last year in Davos at the age of 27. Not that much World Cup experience. However, she was outside the points, outside the top 30 last year. And here's another young talent, Theresa Stadler, but the Austrians don't have exactly a big team, but Theresa, an under-23 skiathlon bronze medalist, 2 seasons ago, and a junior world skiathlon champion 3 years ago, so promise.
Yeah, lots of promise. It'd be nice to see her do well here today. Just some of these sort of Alpine nations, Germany and Austria, have maybe struggled a bit in recent years to have some strong women's team as well, so it would be really nice to see her improve. And she does prefer the slightly longer distances, so it could be good for her today. I don't think we're going to see her quite on the top, but I think sort of top 10, top 20 would be a good result for her today.
And Switzerland's Natalie von Siementhal at the moment through the first section of the climb, now the fastest racer, 44 here. Ragnhild Haga, just outside the top 10 in the overall World Cup rankings, but interesting to see how she goes. She's sort of got an advantage on quite a lot of those racers who've just preceded her, because she can actually feed off their split times. Now, here comes Palmer Cosby. Nice rhythm. Upper body nice and steady.
Yeah, she looks very, very smooth. See, the technique she's doing there, the skate 2 technique. A lot of the skiers have already transferred into skate 1, which is what you do on the slightly steeper hills. So that shows she's very, very strong. She's able to keep that more efficient technique as she goes up these long climbs in Davos.
Well, this is Emma Wicken. Having gone through, you can see she's only got 1,800 meters before she goes out on the last of her rotations.
Yeah, so she's in this long, gradual downhill now. Having said that, she's just got a little bit of a blip here going back up, but for the most part, it is quite gradually downhill into the stadium. So she's working those climbs really well and just sort of powering up those bumps to give her a bit of speed into the downhills as well. But it's hard going out first. You know, you don't have the advantage of the splits. You don't really know what's going on behind you, but she looks to be keeping quite steady there.
Yeah, she finished a respectable 12th here a year ago, but as you say, she didn't then have the disadvantage of bib number 1. Anna Horg, another experienced member of the Swedish team.
Yeah, she's another one that's quite a solid sort of top 10, top 20 skier. Hasn't had any too spectacular results. Interesting to see, David, actually earlier on today. Charlotte Kaller's obviously not here today, but recovering from a bit of an illness, and has competed in a Scandinavian Cup today in Lillehammer, which won that, so that's a good sign for her. Hopefully making her way back to the World Cup in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, good point. I mean, Charlotte Kaller, though, I sort of associate these days with being a racer on the big occasion. Now, Heidi Weng, through the first 2.2 kilometers, has taken almost a second out of Natalie von Siementhal, who's in second place. Laura Mononen 7 seconds off. Likewise, Palmer Cosby, Rita-Lisa Ropanen. So very early days, but there's 3 Finns up there in the top 5 in the first part of the climb. So 60, Jessica Diggins in high spirits. But she's got the longest wait of all to start, just keeping warm. As you can see, Ørsberg now coming up where bib 38 for Norway, and that's the quickest start so far. So Jessica Diggins will no doubt be informed of that.
Yeah, it's a solid 8 seconds there as well. It's a pretty hefty lead to go in with. We don't want to read too much into these early splits because some people start off a little cool and really build into the race, and some people can go off a bit much, but good to sort of get an early marker and see how the field's starting to split at this point in time.
It's also how you respond to the information you're getting, and that will obviously vary at different stages in the race.
Yeah, and I think some people have different approach to splits. Some people want them as much as possible and get a lot of information, and some people will actually say, don't tell me anything on this part of the course, I need to focus on my technique, or I need to focus on, you know, working to the top of the climb. So people do approach races in quite different ways, and I think for some people they will be saying, don't give me splits too early on, because you don't want to panic that you're 10 seconds behind at 3k, because, you know, you do still have 12, 13k to go. There's plenty of time to build into the race and make up those seconds.
Well, I think we've got a good indication about Katarina Smutner now behind Saarinen at the 5th interval split, which is 8.2 kilometers. She's now down by almost 50 seconds. So it may well be that she's chosen this race to, in a way, tune herself for the next long distance challenge.
Yeah, she could well have done, and I don't think she's raced very much this year, so really warming into the season still for her. And it is different. Born in Czech Republic, but raced for Austria, and then now back with the Czech Republic, I think. Did she not take... I had an idea she raced for Austria. She did race for Austria. You're one step ahead of me, because I hadn't realised she'd gone back to the Czech Republic. So can't keep track of her. Yeah, moved over there for a few years and sort of a bit of a falling out, but must have made up her differences with the Czech team to go back over there again.
Strong Swedish challenge today. Johanna Sundling, just 21 years of age. And again, a pretty good performer at junior world levels. In fact, she won the freestyle sprint in Val di Fiemme at junior level in 2014. And also now a racer sort of developing her distance racing.
Nice for her to get the opportunity to start the distance today. Yeah, as you say, she is slightly stronger in sprint, but I think, you know, good to get the experience and build up to be an all-round skier. I think that's the aim for a lot of people.
Yeah, she was 41st here a year ago. There's a lot of racers who actually have had experience. It's a very popular place to come. Interesting, just looking back at last year, the first 2.2 kilometers, 5:44.6 was the time for Therese Johaug. Today, Ørsberg at 6:01.9,
which is actually very similar to what she did last year at this point. So we can say it's conditions, but it could just show the gap that there has been between Johaug and Bjørgen and the rest of the field in recent years. You know, they have really blown the field apart over a lot of these distance races. So I think there's more opportunity with both of them out of action this weekend for other skiers to come through and challenge for the podium.
Ørsberg ahead of Weng through 3.2 kilometers by just under 3 seconds. Then a 13-second gap back to Natalie von Siebenthal of Switzerland. Parmakowski 14 seconds off. Lisa Roppanen 19 back. Laura Mollinen 19 back. So you can see that Ørsberg and Weng, who are at the top of their form, really underlining that those are the athletes who are vying yet again, as they did last year, for medals on the podium.
Yeah, I think it's hard to see at least one of them not making the podium today. I think they're really, really good shouts to be on top today.
Yeah, perhaps the other interesting question, is there another Norwegian to come and join them to maybe make it another Norwegian clean sweep? I sort of doubt that, really.
I don't think it's the strongest Norwegian team we've seen today. I mean, I think any one of them is capable of doing it on a good day, but I think there's some other good bets like Diggins, like Parmakowski that we talked about, who might just steal that third spot on the podium. For me, I don't think there's another Norwegian that can do it, but I mean, don't hold me to that, because it could all change.
So Parmakoski at 5 kilometers through in 12:56.3. So she's now some 21 seconds ahead of Aino Kaiser Saarinen.
Yeah, that's a good solid gap. It's good to see von Siebenthal still sitting in second place at 5K. That's a really consistent race from her.
And so the whole field is away now with Jess Diggins.
Really excited to see how she can do today, David. I think it could be a good day for her. She's got so much confidence from that result last week. Loves skate races, loves challenge, you know, great going out last so she can have all the splits. I think she's going to do really well.
Yeah, she's 25 years of age, really coming into that strong part of her career. Can improve, probably will improve, but she is very much the life and soul, certainly of the American women's squad. Like the Americans, she's truly effervescent, really enthusiastic with her racing, particularly if she achieves the victory, which she did in Lillehammer. But again, just to reiterate, no American woman has ever won a World Cup distance race at 15 kilometers. So there's a big target there for the Americans, and in particular for Jess.
I'm sure they would love to do something about that and change that statistic. And I think if anyone can do it, it can be Jessie. She loves the 5Ks, but she's strong enough to do the longer races as well. You know, we've mentioned her silver medal in the World Championships in 2015. That was over 10K, so she showed she can do those longer races as well. And as she gets a little bit older and has a bit more training hours under her belt, she's going to start to get better in those longer races as well. So if it's not today, I think it'll happen at some point in the future.
And I can tell you that Ingvild Ørsberg has extended her advantage over Heidi Weng. I wouldn't read too much into it at this stage, but she was just under 3 seconds ahead of Heidi Weng. She is now 4.5 seconds ahead of Heidi Weng, with Krista Parmakoski now in third place. This is at 5 kilometers, and Parmakoski 14, call it 15 seconds off the lead, and another 4 seconds behind her is Natalie von Siebenthal, with Rita-Lisa Roppanen in fifth place. That's the top five, separated at 5 kilometers by 23 seconds. But there's still one or two that we need to see through the first rotation. Liz Stevens. So still Jess Diggins to get to this early time check at 2.2 kilometers. Then we'll get a comparison right through the whole field. Lara Mononen with a positive start for Finland, travelling at the same speed as Krista Parmakoski. And Polina Kalsina for Russia. She was through the 8.2 kilometer stage. She was actually leading Saarinen by a second or so. And you can see Saarinen going through there, 12.2 kilometers, wearing bib 4.
It's interesting, David, as you have the two Finns on the screen there, just to compare their technique as they go up that hill. Saarinen on her last lap looking a little bit tired. I think that's Bjorn Dali we just spotted there in the crowd, watching the races.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day for being a spectator. I mean, just, you know, a degree or so under zero and blue skies. Classic Davos weather.
Yeah, it is.
Just a very strange lack of snow around, apart from the white strip, which is the course.
Yeah, it is a shame that. And I think everyone, as I said earlier, everyone does love coming to Davos. After you've been in Scandinavia for a few weeks and you have really short days and long nights, it's nice to come down to Davos and get a bit of sunshine and some slightly nicer weather than you're getting in Scandinavia at this time of year. So Diggins coming through now to the 2.2k split. I think she's not quite up there, but she's definitely in the mix still at this point in time. And as we keep saying, it is only 2.2k in, so she's one who should work those downhills really well in the second half of the course, and just probably taking her time and being quite careful, I think, in this first lap, it looks like to me.
Well, she's travelling at basically the same speed as Laura Mononen of Finland and Krista Parmakoski, and indeed Anna Haag of Sweden at this particular moment in time, but too early to make any pronouncements.
Yeah, there is a bit of a gap back to Østberg, 15 seconds already, but hopefully she'll have confidence, know what her race plan is and stick to it. And she's obviously trying to start off quite steady, because that's the other thing with being at altitude. You can really blow up, and if you blow up at altitude, it's hard to recover and bring it back for the second half of the race.
Nathalie von Siebenthal just outside the top 20 here last season in the Norwegian clean sweep, and Liz Stephen at 2/3 distance.
Yeah, I think Liz would have liked to be a little higher up the results today. She's in 6th at the moment. There's quite a lot of good skiers behind her, so I don't think it's going to be one of her top results today.
Yeah, I mean, she's 21 odd seconds behind Italy's Ilaria De Bertolis, who we haven't really mentioned at all. Went off with an early bib number 14, and at the moment De Bertolis, Polsina, they're losing ground, because Østberg, Weng, Parmakoski, they're all accelerating.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to keep that top spot for too much longer, are they? It's going to be some strong skiers coming through later on. The course looks like it's holding up quite well today, David. We've talked about the new snow on the old snow on the course, and how they've had to make it with all this artificial snow and snow left over from last year. But you can see it staying fairly compact. Sometimes it can get quite slushy and a little bit of loose snow on top, but it seems to be staying fairly firm, and that's quite good. The skiers will be happy with that today. It's an awful lot easier when it stays like that, and makes it a little bit more even between the first and the last skier as well.
So through the 7.2 kilometre check time, just worth emphasising that Heidi Weng, who'd slipped back a little bit, has now halved the deficit to just a couple of seconds at that particular point. Krista Parmakoski, on the other hand, she's gone through 8.2 kilometres as the fastest racer, almost 20 seconds ahead of Nathalie von Siebenthal, and so there's a bit of a familiar picture beginning to emerge here.
Yeah, we're starting to see the same contenders we've seen in the other weekends this year.
Now Weng, who was ahead of Parmakoski by 16 seconds a kilometre ago, and
that was down to 12 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
There. So she's lost a couple of seconds. It just shows to me that Parmakoski's working those downhill segments slightly better and really pushing on there, or potentially has a slightly faster pair of skis as well that's helping her get slightly better glide on those sections.
Riitta-Liisa Ropponen, well, in terms of placement, pretty respectable. 4th place at the moment, but she's 6 seconds down on von Siebenthal in 3rd place. A deficit back to Heidi Weng now of 37 seconds. And, of course, Østberg now coming through. Now, Østberg was leading Weng a kilometre ago by 2 seconds. And we cut to the finish, but I'll bring you the story of Østberg if we don't get back in time for the time check. Emma Vicken, 39.37, and she finished last year 39.37, and last year 37.48.3, so that's quite a time difference.
It is, but I mean, it's hard to compare like for like exactly.
Absolutely.
Conditions could be slightly different. We don't want to read too much into that just yet.
Østberg now and Weng are now almost matching strides. The gap is down to 1.5 seconds, and those two Norwegians have an advantage of just under 14 over Krista Parmakoski, 33 over von Siebenthal, 38 over Ropponen, and 48 over Laura Mononen.
That's going to be a good battle between those two for the top of the podium.
Yeah, this is a very decent run here by Nathalie von Siebenthal, but and, you know, it could net her a decent finish
think we're going to see at least a top 10 from her, and that's a really good result for her.
Yeah, well, that would be 11 places better at least than last year.
Yeah, really nice and consistent of her. The Swiss team do train in Davos. This is their base sort of year-round, so they know this course like the back of their hand. Gives her a bit of an advantage, but yeah, nice to see her making the most of it.
Well, Saarinen, you can see the way she took that final corner into the straight. The legs are a bit like jelly.
Yeah,
she's really tired, and so she should be. But look at this, great to see the zestful finish here of Aino-Kaisa Saarinen. Pretty well the senior member of the women's team for Finland, but goes into second place behind Emma Vicken.
Yeah, it was pretty tight at the finish there. I thought she might just pit Vicken. I think those are going to be some good times from those two. Again, not on the top of the podium, but sort of solid top 10s, top 15s, I think.
Jess Diggins through 3.2 kilometres, some 16 seconds back, 2 seconds behind Parmakoski. But again, Parmakoski making ground on the downhills. Will Jess do as she did in Lillehammer, profit from a good pair of skis? And it's different though. You said, you know, the downhill in Lillehammer was pretty continuous, and this is a different sort of downhill run back to the stadium, isn't it?
Yeah, Lillehammer is all about, do you have good ski skills? Can you stay on, keep those corners really tight and keep your speed up? This is more about, are you willing to put in the hard work on the downhill instead of resting? So both important to be able to do well, but I think slightly different skills. I think Jess is good at this as well. I think we will see her having some good split times on that second half of the course. But she's going to need to do that if she wants to make up that time, because she is sitting a good few seconds behind Østberg and Weng at the moment. So she's going to have some strong downhills and a good second half of this race if she wants to start competing for the win.
And Jess Diggins positionally has gone ahead at the 5 kilometre point. She's gone ahead of Østberg and Weng into third place. She is about a second ahead of Parmakoski, and those two are about 4 ahead of Natalie von Siebenthal. That's again still pretty early in the race, but it seems to me that Diggins has realised that perhaps the start was steady. Now she's beginning to nibble away at the deficit. And that will be her plan, because, you know, it is 15 kilometres, not the 5 kilometres that she was victorious over at Lillehammer.
Yeah, 15k is long enough that you need to be a little bit careful when you start off. You know, the women don't race very many 15ks at World Cup level. It's not something we've done so far this year, so she will, I imagine, just be being a little bit cautious in that first lap. And I think that's a sensible approach, actually. You don't want to risk going too hard on the first lap and having nothing left for your second 2 laps.
Quite interesting. Parmakoski at 10 kilometres has got the gap down on Heidi Weng to 8 seconds. And here comes Østberg, and now look at this. There it is, 10 kilometres. And what you're seeing there is a little closing, and now we've got Østberg, Weng and Parmakoski separated by 12 seconds.
Yeah, really tightening up, as you say. You can't, you know, Østberg had an 8-second lead at that first one, but that first split, just 2k, that's now down after 10k. It's only 4 seconds, so it shows you can't expect the gap to keep on widening. People are being stronger at different parts of the course as the race goes on. Looks to me like it's going to be pretty tight, though. I don't think we can quite call it a win just yet. I think Weng's got a chance to make up those 4 seconds over that last 5k if she can just keep really steady and really strong.
Yeah, Østberg, who keeps herself fit by playing football for a local team up at Gjøvik, and just finishing there, you can see Kobayashi of Japan. That's not bad.
Yeah, just in front of Smutner, so that's one we thought might benefit from her long distance experience, but hasn't quite pulled it out today. As we said earlier, obviously just using this as a bit of a early season tune-up.
No, and we haven't seen Sarina Bonner also now very much more long distance race, even though she's got all the local knowledge. That hasn't really worked out in the way that maybe a lot of her local fans would have wished.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit shorter for her still, 15k. I think she likes the 90k Vasalopits rather than the 15ks.
Roppanen, who was in 5th place, 42 seconds behind Ersberg at 10 kilometers going through. So wearing bib number 32, Krista Parmakoski. You might remember her as Krista Ladenmati, and 44 seconds ahead of von Siementhal. She's stretching that gap over the Swiss. Meanwhile, we deserted you at a rather inauspicious moment there, because Ilaria de Bertolis is the leader in the clubhouse so far. 39 minutes 16.6. That's a terrific effort from the Italian, and particularly when you put it into context, because at 10 kilometers she was 63 seconds down on Ersberg, and that could end up by being a very decent run.
Yeah, she's sort of snuck under our radar, I think, hasn't she, David? She does quite a consistent race, but no sort of fireworks, so we missed her a bit. But that's a really great run from her. Very, very good if she can end up with a top 10. You know, we haven't seen too many Italian women in a while, so it'd be great if she could do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it's a top 10, it's going to be a big personal best for her. So
yeah, huge.
That's good news for the Italians, because again, you know, like one or two nations, like we were talking about Canada before, the Italians are having to rebuild their squad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on the men's side they've got Pellegrino, but on the women's there's really not been a lot of good quality skiers there for quite a few years now. So it would be really good if we could see them just improving a bit, because they haven't done anything special for a couple of years.
Yeah, the leader board in the clubhouse, there is the current leader, Ilaria de Bertolis. Big pat on the back there. She might stay there for a wee while. She succeeded Polina Kalsina of Russia by 10 seconds. Emma Viken, who started with bib number 1, she was 21 seconds to the good of her. Silja Slind of Norway, 22 seconds better than her. 22 seconds better than Einar Kaiser Saarinen. And Masako Ishida in 6th place, 28 seconds, which is not bad for a freestyle race for her. And then Sheba Shek of Slovenia in 8th place, 35 seconds back, as you see Heidi Weng going through there.
Yeah, so there's Sarina Bona finishing. That's another one of the long distance ones we talked about. Saw her interview right at the beginning of the programme today. As she said, she's not quite on her top form yet this season, and I think, yeah, that's not what she can do on her best day, I don't think, 17th. I think this is going to be a good finish here, David, between Weng and Parmakoski and Ersberg. They're still pretty tight at the top.
Yeah, it's a question really whether, I mean, both of them are good finishers.
Yeah.
It's rather a question of, you know, sort of can Parmakoski actually eat into that 8 seconds which she's got to find.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to ask. And look, Ersberg's got 12-second lead now over Weng at that. She's really pushed that last 2K from the 10K marker there. That's absolutely fantastic, actually, seeing her doing that.
Yeah, and that's 20 seconds over Parmakoski.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really hard to make up in the last 3K. I don't see Parmakoski making up quite that much time.
Jess Diggins, not good news for her fans, because she's drifted away from the pace there, going through interval number 4, which is 7.2 kilometers. Must have hit a really bad patch there, because she's down by 36 seconds to Ersberg and 34 to Weng, and well, almost 20 to Parmakoski. So something really hasn't happened for her. Well, it has, because obviously I don't know whether she's feeling bad. It does happen sometimes, particularly in the first rotation. She's now obviously out on the second rotation, but things not going well for Jess Diggins, and here indeed she is.
Here she is, and leading a good train of skiers there as well. You can see she's caught up 59 and 57 past them, and they're now working off her to finish this race. You know, 7th isn't bad, but I think she will have been expecting more from that after last weekend. Maybe just struggling with the altitude. We've talked about how that could be a fact. Maybe just not quite paced it as well as these other 2 skiers have. But one thing you can say about Jessie is she always puts everything out on the course. She never finishes a race and has given less than 100%. So she'll be working her hardest there, even if it's not quite what she wants to do today.
Yeah, teammate Elizabeth Stevens has finished. She's in 9th place. She has a habit of, or I suppose a habit might be the wrong word, an interest, shall we say, of jumping into cold lakes and rivers. Well, Not sure whether that's a celebration or a punishment.
Not sure if she'll be wanting to do that today after this race, but...
Ropponen.
She's going to just pip de Bertolis to the top spot here.
And again, second of these two to cross the line. And Ropponen 10.8 seconds to the good. And that's a fair race for her.
That's a really good race by her.
I actually think that 10 kilometres freestyle is her perfect race. I think 15 is maybe stretching it just a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, she's good in freestyle, so she can sort of mix and match a little bit between all of those distance races in freestyle.
The Finns, you know, I know we're early December, but, you know, the Finns, in terms of making up their squad, would seem to have a really good group with which to work and with which ultimately to choose their squads for, you know, the Nordic Ski World Championships.
Nice to have that depth and the choice of skiers, and I think when you get some strength in numbers, everyone starts to improve because you have people to push yourself in training throughout the summer as well. So you get a few good skiers and it can really raise the standard of the whole team.
So Finland, Italy and Russia, the 1, 2, 3 at the moment. And now you can see a big cheer for Nathalie von Siebenthal coming in to take the lead away from Rita-Lisa Ropponen.
That is a fantastic ski by her today. I would have, if I'd had to pick my top 5, I'm not sure I would have put her in there, but yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. That's really, really good to see. I'm pleased to see that. Didn't keep the lead for long, you know, when you got Palmer Kosky's guy a minute behind you, it's not easy, but briefly into the top spot before she got taken out. But I still think that's going to be good for a top 5, top 10 at the very minimum for von Siebenthal.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there, von Siebenthal in second place. There's a few to come home. I mean, she was as good as 7th last year in Novo Mesto over 10 kilometres in freestyle skate, and she was 8th in the mass start in Falun, so she has been in the top 10 before, von Siebenthal, and I think, as you say, she's probably going to finish in it today. Whether it's going to be a personal best, I'm not quite sure.
It's going to be close. It's still a good race for her. I think anytime she can get in the top 10, you know, she has been there a few times before, but it's a good race for her if she does. But
she looks pretty pleased there with her day's work or her morning's work.
And nice to do it in front of a home crowd as well. I think that always makes a difference, having everyone cheering you on.
Yeah, the other thing also, she's only 23. I mean, I think you have to say, as I said earlier on, you know, she was very successful at under 23 level. That was only 2 seasons ago. So that bodes really well for her.
I hope she can continue to improve.
But it is Palmer Kosky in the nice warm chair for the moment.
I mean, it's a good 48 seconds she had there on von Siebenthal as she came in. So those top 3 skiers, Palmer Kosky, here's Ben coming in as well, and Usberg, they're just in a class of their own today. You know, no one can really compete with them. It's actually going to be pretty tight here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was a bit disappointed that we're not seeing more of that last downhill phase, because that's really the exciting bit, to see them coming into the stadium complex.
It is making a difference, but I mean, Weng's going to take this here, but...
Yeah, and now she was 8 seconds ahead, and it means that she's actually held that advantage over Palmer Kosky. I mean, she's actually slightly extended it. But can she do anything about Ersberg? That's the big question.
Yeah,
Diggins now, you can see 5 kilometres to go and 36 seconds back. Well, she's going to need some turbos to evaporate that sort of deficit.
Yeah, I think just looking at Jessie going out of the stadium there, she looks quite strong, but it's not as sparky as she sometimes looks. You can often see her with a lot of tempo. But this, again, it's going to be tight. 23 seconds for us to get to the finish line. She's going to do that. She's going to take this here today, I think.
Yeah, and I think you know, to be fair, Ersberg was carrying a 12-second advantage. Okay, the other two have maybe speeded a little bit, but that's a brilliantly worked out race by Ersberg. She speeded up in that second rotation, exactly thinking, right, they're going to gain a little bit on. I now need to extend the cushion of advantage. And it's brought her home into first place. She was, a year ago, the runner-up to Teresa Johaug here. It looks very much like that she's going to be the winner here.
Yeah, she's played that really well today, leading at every split, sometimes, you know, swinging a bit, losing a few seconds here and there, but really nice and solid and great race.
And that would, of course, be her first individual victory of the season.
I'm sure she'll be pleased to get one under her belt.
Well, Erzberg celebrating. Good to see Keegan Randall back in action after the birth of their son Breck back in April of this year. Very timely name, Breck, isn't it? I mean, with everything. Not, at least they didn't call him Brexit.
So I think Osberg's looking on there just to make sure no one hips her to the post, but no one's going to match that time today, are they? I think those three are just been in the class of their own, and I think everyone else is going to be well adrift of the podium today.
Yeah, 20 foot, just looking at Erzberg's time in the finish. 37.44. Last year 36.50, but in say, you know, different conditions, you can't really judge.
Yeah, quite tricky to compare year to year, I think.
What'll be interesting though is maybe there was 5 seconds last year between Heidi Weng in third place and Erzberg second, and this year 7.9. So not too different, really.
Not a huge amount of difference there. No, not really.
Theresa Stadlober for Austria coming home.
Not a bad ski from her. A bit of time off the top, but they, you know, those top three do have a good
into the top 10,
seconds.
into 9th place for the moment. Now she could be pushed down by Jess Diggins, of course.
Yeah, I think there's still 1 or 2 more that could push her out of the top 10. There's Iris Lind there as well, who's sitting in 12th, so a little bit behind her, but could finish off strongly. And Ragnhild Hager as well, actually. That's 5th place for her just there. Another Norwegian into the top 10. I think we're getting used to seeing them sort of blocking up the top 10 with all their results.
5th place for Haga with a good finishing speed here. She's passing her opponent, but she's just 1.5 seconds behind from Siebenthal.
Yeah, Ragnhild Haga for Norway. Another decent finish from her. In sight at 13.2 kilometers, she was actually ahead of Roppanen, ahead of De Bertelis, ahead of Anna Haag. Well, she started just 30 seconds after Erzberg, so that young woman, you can see how much it's taken out of her. This is 12.2 kilometers. Jess Diggins.
See, she's really starting to work now. It's her last time up this hill, so you know you don't leave anything in reserve this time around. It's all about putting everything out there on the course the last time round. Working hard. You see their head goes down a little bit. I think that's the sign she is a little bit tired today.
Yeah, 3.8 kilometers in which to try to do something about a 59-second deficit. Anna Haag into 8th place, pushes Kalsina down. Laura Mononen of Finland now down to 10th place. So at the moment, Erzberg, Weng, Parmakovsky, Natalie von Siebenthal in an excellent 4th place at the moment. Ragnhild Haga. And remember, you know, the way things are going for Jess Diggins, it may well be that Natalie von Siebenthal could well hold on to that 4th place, because
really
Diggins is really losing time, and Natalie von Siebenthal 65.6 seconds off the lead. That's pretty decent. And there you can see the state of play there.
Yeah, I think Jess has picked up a bit of time on that last lap, so hopefully she should be able to sneak into 4th place there. But you know, she's got to keep working to the end. It's absolutely not taken for granted just yet. If you, as we keep saying, if you don't work on that downhill, you're going to lose an awful lot of time there. So it's definitely not guaranteed yet.
Katu Niskanen coming home here, looking to try and take 9th place off Kalsina of Russia, and so does. into 9th place.
So another 3 Finns again in the top 10, is it, at the moment? So another good race for them today.
Yeah, Swedes have got Anna Haag as their best racer at the moment, and Chekaleva for Russia into 4th place ahead of von Siebenthal now. That's a good run by Chekaleva. Again, a little bit under the radar. We haven't really seen much of her throughout the race. But indeed, 8th overall and 6th in the distance rankings before today's race began. And that's a very decent result for the Russian.
Yeah, she could hold on to that. Just all really depends on Diggins now. I think Diggins is the last one out on the course who can really do much to alter the shape of those top 5 spots.
Yeah, because the time deficit is about the same between Diggins and Chekaleva. Julia Chekaleva, experienced and, you know, has come close to victories. In fact, the last victory she had was in the skiathlon 2 seasons ago in Rybinsk on home snow.
Yeah, very much the experienced member of the Russian team here today. Most of the other ones are much younger. They've definitely got a new team as well, for whatever reasons.
Erzberg in the sunshine of Davos. So Erzberg, Venn, Parmakovsky, Chekaleva, von Siebenthal, Haga, Roppanen, De Bertolis, Haag and Niskanen, the top 10. So essentially we think only Jess Diggins really out there who could make a big difference. You can see Karis Lind there. That's a decent run.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to be hard pressed to get into the top 10, because there is just a little bit of time left to go. It's sort of 15-20 seconds from as you round that bend to get into the finish. So I think she's going to be sort of knocking on the door of the top 10, but not quite. So as you say, it's really just Jess Diggins to come who can make a difference. So she's just got to work hard to work that last section of the course and get in front of Chekaleva for 4th place. It's a tough race though, David. 15k at this altitude really takes it out of you. You've got to pace it quite carefully and have a good recovery as well, actually, if you want to be back on form for tomorrow, because we will see some of these guys racing today in the sprint in action tomorrow as well. So you've got to make sure you recover really well so you can be, you know, back able to compete again tomorrow.
Well, Erzberg, as an Olympic team sprint gold medalist and an Olympic silver individual sprint medalist, will be looking forward, I think, to the sprint. But now you can see Diggins here. Remember, she had the best part of a minute to try and make up here, and she's chasing Chekaleva for that 4th place.
I think she's going to make that. She has skied that last part well. You know, she thinks she skied the second half of the race better than the first half today, but that gap is so big that, you know, she was never really in the running for a podium today, was she?
Very tight, but she gets there nonetheless and gets into 4th place. Erzberg, by the way, she won back in 2013. She won a Lenza Haida sprint as part of the Tour de Ski. She won also in Davos, the sprint final here in 2014. She won an Ottawa Sprint Classic final, and now today, after the success that she had last year in Canmore as part of the World Cup closer last season, when she won over 10 kilometers freestyle, adding another individual victory here to her tally, which is becoming more impressive season by season.
And her first at 15k as well. So again, really nice to see her just expanding and her success in the distance races as well.
So almost everybody home. There are a few out in the country still, but the result is pretty clear at the moment. Erzberg secure in 1st place, 100 World Cup points for her. And then Heidi Weng, the World Cup leader. She'll still be the World Cup leader because the gap between them was not that big. There's only a difference of 20 points between finishing first and second.
And then another great result for Parmakoski in third again, so really stacking up the podiums this year.
And just thinking back to Jess Diggins and the sort of prize money that's on offer, you know, 5,000 Swiss francs for today's victory.
Going to do too badly.
Right currency, decent amount. Yeah, very excited. Ingvild Flugstad Ørsberg there. Confirmation of the final result before you. The best for America, Jess Diggins. The best for Russia, Chekalaeva. Natalie Siebenthal, the best for the host nation, Switzerland. Also in there, Haga for Norway, giving Norway 3 in the top 10. For Finland, Ropponen in there. De Bertolis, the best Italian there in 9th place. And Anna Haag completing the top 10. Well, Krista Parmakoski started steadily, nice rhythm, got the gap down to Heidi Weng to about 8 seconds, but could never really get on terms with either her or Ørsberg.
No, absolutely. Sort of always challenging, but just never quite there. Kept the gap small, much in front of the rest of the field, but not quite enough to get on the first top spot of the podium today.
Heidi Weng might feel a bit frustrated because she finished third and she was behind Ørsberg last year when it was a Norwegian clean sweep. And once again, Ørsberg has got the better of her own teammate. But she'll still wear the yellow jersey. But Ingvild Flugstad Ørsberg, her first outright victory of the campaign. And really was in charge of this race, reacted very well to the information that she's been given by the Norwegian coaches, and now another opportunity to celebrate, or indeed to learn to celebrate, because so strong is the Norwegian team that more often than not she's been finishing second or third.
Yeah, but again, another opportunity for her tomorrow. I think we'll see her doing well in the sprint again, so I'm sure that'll be firing her up for another good one tomorrow.
She's a former winner here. Can she do the weekend double in Davos? Every chance that she will. Hope you've enjoyed the action from Posey Musgrave and myself, David Goldstrom. Just a reminder that you can see the World Cup standings there. Ørsberg closing up on Weng, with Parmakoski in third place. So a sprint to come for the moment from Davos. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye from Posey and myself from Davos.